What's up, YouTube? This is Mike with PricePlow.com, and it's April 4th, 2017. I have a major update for you regarding the Hi-Tech Pharma versus the FDA DMAA lawsuit, where Hi-Tech Pharma is suing the United States federal government over the use to legally use DMAA in supplements.
Welcome to PricePlow.
And so last night, the Honorable Willis B. United States District Court federal judge in Georgia, handed down his decision denying Hi-Tech Pharma's motion for summary judgment and granting the United States federal government's motion for summary judgment, thereby deeming that currently DMAA is illegal to use as a supplement based upon his interpretation of the 1994 DSHEA Act as enacted by Congress. And so before you get all in panic mode and everything, Mark Lowbinder's video may have put you into that mode a little bit. The sky is not yet falling. This case is not over. And so real quickly, Hi-Tech Pharma does have 28 days to file a motion for reconsideration, which they are going to do. And if that does not go their way, they are going to appeal this up to the 11th Circuit. There's a lot of stuff in here that's appealable that we're going to talk about. And they're going to continue to do that. They can appeal this all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they most likely would if they had to. But this, in general, is a slight blow to what I believe is consumer freedom and the supplement industry. But at the same time, there's a lot of really good things that happen in this case as well. So let's talk about what happened here. And just so you know, on the PricePlow blog, we do have it updated. You can download the PDF there. I'm going to put a link to the PDF in the description here. And the judge's writing is not too much legalese, so you could actually kind of understand what's going on here. And so what happened here is that in this case, the FDA's entire arguments hinged on their belief that DMAA is not found in nature. It's never been found in geranium stems. And they cited a few studies where, they couldn't detect it. However, as we kind of got through the evidence of the case, and I made a whole long video about this called the supplement conspiracy. I'll make you a link. It kept being detected. Geranium continually had DMAA in it. And I have a blog post update where we're going to show every single time it's been detected. But even in the studies where they're saying, oh, we didn't detect it to a certain level, the researchers actually were finding DMAA in geraniums. It's to the point where the judge didn't even argue that DMAA couldn't be detected, because I think it's getting pretty clear to the point where DMAA does definitely have basis in nature. There's like 6 or 7 times where researchers or other companies have found or isolated it, and it's pretty clear that this stuff does have basis in nature. So that was the FDA's entire argument. So how did Hi-Tech Pharma lose this decision? And what happened is that this judge is kind of making some decisions based upon other parts of DSHEA that were not even argued at all by either side of this case, and that's what may lead to an appeal. And so essentially the judge is focusing on this case and his decision, focusing on the word botanical. You see the word botanical written all over the place, and is stating that, hey, this wasn't, that DMAA is not a botanical, in that this wasn't in the spirit of what Congress meant when they wrote the DSHEA Act in 1994. And he goes on to say that, first off, we've never had a supplement, a DMAA supplement that was based out of geranium extract. It's all been synthetically created. And is also stating that, hey, you can't just, come up with some synthetic molecule and then scour the earth to go find it in nature and then perhaps find it in some Tibetan river valley, some, random fungus plant or whatever. You can't just go and do that. And that's his interpretation of DSHEA. And now he notes that the word botanical was never, ever defined by Congress. DSHEA is a very, very vague, it's a very, very vague law. And this is what happens when you have a Congress who doesn't understand this stuff, and the industry was just getting created by this law. It's very vague, and a lot of things aren't defined, and so they are open to a judge's interpretations. That's basically why we have the court system, is to interpret things that aren't defined here. However, Hi-Tech Pharma is obviously going to argue this interpretation. And one thing that we do have some quotes on our blog from Jared Wheat and Hi-Tech Pharma, but one thing that they didn't even mention is that they keep focusing on the word botanical, stating that this isn't the spirit of the word botanical. However, the judge completely seems to ignore the word constituent. And it seems quite clear that that DMAA is definitely a constituent of certain geranium plants, especially like in provinces of China. And that kind of gets like completely like, cast aside a little bit. But that's another section of the DSHEA Act that can make something into an ingredient, into a supplement. If you have a molecule that's a constituent of a plant that has been in the food supply, which may become the next part of the arguments, then it is a DSHEA compliant supplement ingredient, a dietary ingredient. And so that part was never even mentioned by the judge. So it seems like he's kind of like selectively interpreting certain parts but ignoring others. And so that leaves things open to appeal. Now, Hi-Tech Pharma has stated they have 28 days to file a motion to reconsider, and that might take 6 to 8 weeks to get a decision on that. If they fail, they will definitely appeal up to the 11th Circuit. Now, here's some of their arguments against what the judges stated. First off, the judge is kind of mentioning, hey, you can't just come up with a molecule and find it in some rare plant. Well, Hi-Tech Pharma is showing that this is not geraniums aren't just some rare plant. We keep detecting over and over and over. We keep detecting DMAA in pretty common geranium plants. And so it's not like a rare fungus that can't be found anywhere, like the judge kind of alludes to. It's actually a common flower that it keeps getting found in. And so we'll update that post, but it's kind of led to the whole conspiracy because a lot of these researchers weren't showing all their data. And so that's a whole other story, but the judge is not even arguing. It's got basis in nature, which personally makes me feel better because that's kind of what we've been arguing. This whole argument hinged on basis in nature, and now it feels like they're moving the goalpost a little bit. Now we need to prove other things, although the whole argument that the FDA had was about basis in nature. And so that's been shown again and again. So Hi-Tech Pharma is now stating that there is no evidence that DMAA had not been extracted from plants in commercial quantities. And so to the contrary, we had a patent application for just an extraction on the record. And so that wasn't mentioned by the judge. And the fact is that Iovate, the company that owns Muscle Tech up in Canada, they had started a patent application where they showed how to get a 1% DMAA standardization out of geraniums. Now, the thing is that they were patenting that throughout like 2011, 2012, and they abandoned the patent application once all the enforcement activities started to go down. So unfortunately, that wasn't a patent that was granted, but they never got denied the patent because of like any type of wrongdoing or anything. They simply abandoned it and stopped answering questions from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO. And so it's not a totally valid patent, but it's also never been bashed either. There's been people who have claimed to extract 1% commercial quantities out of the geranium material. And so Hi-Tech Pharma is saying, hey, the judge is making decisions based upon things that were never argued. There's no evidence for what he's stating in this decision, one way or the other. It's just not been argued that there's been no geranium-based DMAA supplement out there, and if this patent application is possible, if this technology is possible, then it can definitely be done. So that's a whole other branch of stuff that may have to get discussed later on. Now, the next argument Hi-Tech Pharma has is that there's no legislative history or support for the court's novel interpretation of DSHEA / their definition of botanicals. No one ever briefed the judge. And so basically he's coming up with this whole new thing. And that's kind of is the judge's job is to, come up with interpretations of laws that aren't clearly defined. However, that's appealable. And so this is the first time we've ever seen this type of argument. And so Hi-Tech Pharma clearly takes offense to it because it's only looking at half of the story. We're not looking at the constituent basis. We're not looking at the botanical basis. Things keep changing on the industry over time. And so they're going to continue to appeal this all the way up until someone looks at this entire law. And what I think should happen is that DSHEA 1994 needs to be revamped because it is very vague, but that's another story. And then finally, so if the judge's point, this is Jerry Week kind of speaking here. If the judge's point is that DMAA is in geraniums but wasn't in the food supply prior to 1994, which is perhaps what he meant to say, then DMAA is not an adulterant, but rather an NDI needs to be filed. And so that would bring us to a whole other argument of, okay, well, we now can agree that there are minuscule amounts of DMAA in rather common geraniums out there. were they in the food supply before 1994? It's a whole other line of arguments that really haven't been discussed here is the food supply. Were there geranium-based like salad dressings out there that were in the food supply pre-1994 or even far earlier, pre-like 1953, according to certain laws that you look at? And so that's a whole other thing that may need to be argued. And so there's a lot of things here, as you can see, that can be discussed and appealed. Every time a new decision is made, because this law is so vague, there's other arguments that can go the other way. And so my thing here is that, so getting back to the big story, I don't believe the sky is falling yet, but if you are a huge DMAA fan, it might not hurt to have a couple extra tubs of mesomorph if you got the budget for it. I don't see any raids happening. These kinds of decisions, this might drag on for like a year or two. And so, but I also must stress that the stores who are selling it may wish to lawyer up and decide, what they should do. I don't think there's going to be any raids. And if you're a consumer, no one's going to come to your house and be like, hey, you ordered mesomorph 4 years ago, let me check your closet. That's not going to happen. The raids would kind of happen at the brand and the store level, but I don't think we're even close to that point. This appeals process could take 1 to 2 years, seriously. And so until then, it's business as usual. The other point is that if you are a brand who is not under the Hi-Tech Pharma umbrella, you need to get the F out of the DMAA business if you're selling it. Even if you're like way small and flying under the radar, I don't think this is worth the risk. Because that's where the enforcement actions seem to be going down. Blackstone Labs may have been a case of that, but that was also a whole thing related to possibly SARMs. Who knows? That was a whole other thing. But this is Hi-Tech Pharma's fight. No one else is working on making the fight. And so honestly, in my opinion, no one else deserves to be selling this stuff because they're not fighting for consumer freedom and for the industry. It is all Jared Wheat and Hi-Tech Pharma. So whether or not you agree for it, they're fighting for their right to use something. It was found in nature again and again and again. There is basis in nature, but the goalposts keep moving. And so now we're arguing about botanicals. Now we're arguing about food supply, but it has definitely been detected in nature 5, 6, 7 times. We'll get that post updated. And so that's an important thing to realize is that depending on your interpretation of DSHEA, it's legal, but as of right now, this judge is saying it's illegal. So this is going to get filed a motion to reconsider. That takes 28. That'll be 28 days. That decision takes 6 to 8 weeks. And then if that fails, this will get appealed on up and probably all the way to Supreme Court. So this is not over. The sky is not yet falling, but it is a small blow to the supplement industry. But at the same time, the judge is also pretty cool with synthetically created supplements that have been previously extracted. So that's a win in that case. And so this is a big decision. As you appeal up, it gets stronger and stronger. And the support for the supplement industry doing such things, such as safely manufacturing a supplement synthetically, the case for that is really becoming pretty clear based upon the FDA's own people stating that they believe that that's legal and this judge stating that that's legal. Now the question is, what's the definition of botanical, and should that matter if we have a basis in nature and it is definitely a constituent of geranium? So the case continues, but that's kind of my interpretation and Hi-Tech Pharma's interpretation. But go read the PDF. I'll have it in the description, and you can decide for yourself. If you I do need to say that we do make commissions if you were to go and buy any supplement using any of the stores that Price Paul links to. So I'm not going to, start a DMAA stampede like Mark Lobliner did. But if it's, if you think that we're completely wrong and that this is going to be over, done, then it might be time to buy at least a couple tubs or whatever, or to stock up. But I honestly don't think we're at that point yet. So this is Mike with Price Paul. Thanks for listening. That's our side of the story, but this is definitely not over. Thanks, and subscribe to our channel because you know that this is going to continue. You can stay tuned to the Pricewell blog. And if you notice, this whole room is new. I was in Florida for a little bit, got a little bit of sun, and then I've recently moved. I got boxes everywhere. It's a mess, but we're gonna set this room up to be kind of like my little studio / home gym a little bit. So really excited about that. That's what the change up here is.